October 2022, the first explosion on the Kerch Bridge. A truck carrying 21 tons of explosives, disguised in rolls of packaged film, drove onto the bridge. The explosion was so powerful that it collapsed two half sections of the automobile part of the bridge and damaged the railway track.
Exactly a year ago, the Secret Service of Ukraine blew up the Crimean bridge for the first time. Then the security service dealt Russia the most painful reputational blow. With this attack, the SSU destroyed the myth of the most secure bridge in the world, from a publication of the news agency Ukrinform.
The Kerch Bridge is a strategically important facility for supplying the southern group of the Russian army, both in Crimea and on the mainland temporarily Russian-occupied territories of Ukraine. And this building, illegally built by the Russian occupiers, is a source of pride for Putin. It should symbolize the success of the Kremlin's aggressive imperial policy. Even before the first attack on the Kerch Bridge, deputy head of the Federation Security Council Medvedev promised the onset of Judgment Day if Ukraine attacked targets in Crimea.
The consequences are obvious. If something like this happens, the day of judgment will immediately come for all of them, very fast and heavy. It will be very difficult to hide. Dmitry Medvedev, deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council, from the statement July 17, 2022.
After a series of threats from the Kremlin and hysterical promises to use nuclear weapons in response to strikes on the bridge, Ukrainian attacks on military targets have only become more frequent, and the Western partners decided to transfer long-range missiles Storm Shadow and Scalp to Kyiv. In total, the Ukrainian army sent to the bottom or damaged 22 ships of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Navy. It hit the command post and headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol. It also conducted ground operations on the Russian-occupied peninsula at least twice. In one of these raids, military personnel of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine landed on the western coast of Crimea and entered into battle with the Russian occupiers.
Special forces of Stugna and Brotherhood, as part of Timur's special unit of the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, landed on the territory of the Crimean Peninsula and inflicted fire defeat on the Moscow occupiers. Crimea will be Ukrainian. Glory to Ukraine. Main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine on Telegram.
Russia's so-called red lines have proven to be quite elastic. Journalists from the Russian publication Agency came to this conclusion after analyzing reports from the Kremlin and the state news agency TASS.
Throughout 2023, Russian officials made 15 high-profile statements about red lines for the West and Ukraine, and 2 statements about strikes on decision-making centers. In September, the frequency of mentions of these phrases by the Kremlin, the Foreign Ministry and the Ministry of Defense dropped to 0. A year earlier, phrases were used much more often. Red lines were mentioned 24 times and strikes at decision-making centers 13 times, from the publication of the publication agency.
Among such inviolable red lines of Moscow were strikes on the Kerch Bridge, on the territory of Crimea occupied by Russia, supplies of Western weapons to Kyiv, and much more. Reported by Nikita Skobikov, Pavlo Shtelmach, UATV News.